Hi James, Liverpool resident here. I can solidly confirm that rubbish is not piling up in this city, and I'm deeply shocked at this misrepresentation of our beautiful city. Say what you like about Scousers, they've got a very high opinion of Liverpool. I'm fairly confident, and rightly so. It's a magnificent place. That's where my wife got her degree. I don't think she actually said that. I think she alluded specifically to the bin problem in Birmingham, where the councils are on strike, and then said if he wants to talk about councils, let's look at Liverpool, and they're not telling us why we'd want to look at Liverpool, though it's probably got something to do with charges being brought against politicians, former politicians there, or maybe Birmingham, where the rubbish is piling up so high. So I mean, it's clumsily written, which is amazing, given that she is someone who repeatedly tells us that she never has to clarify anything she says because she never says anything that needs clarifying. But I don't think it was actually maligning Liverpool. And what she did do, though, Natasha Clark, and I think we can all agree upon this, it was as if the ghost of Oscar Wilde had inhabited the chamber for a moment. It was as if Peter Ustinov had never left us. She said, and trash is piling up. Like what you is saying over there. Sorry, did I say Oscar Wilde? I think I meant Vicky Pollard.
Oh, harsh.
Vicky Pollard.
That was the only thing that got a laugh from her own backbenchers, though. They liked that. They were screaming out, crying out more, which was the only time I remember. They haven't really been giving her a lot of support, it's fair to say, at any Prime Minister's questions. That was the only time.
I salute your generosity of spirit. I really do. I think the laughter was coming from the Labour benches.
Maybe it was.
The lameness of the joke.
Potentially. But look, going on the economy is what I would have done, and I think actually in the 3 weeks to the budget is not a bad way of doing it. Saying that Keir Starmer needs to get out a little bit more and talk to businesses about all the things that are actually going on out there. There are a lot of real concerns about what's going on in business. Oh, you've got something funny to read from the text.
Don't do that. We're on the radio. Don't start reacting to my face. No one can hear me laughing.
I heard you on the microphone.
You saw me laughing. So
no,
anyway, Graham just texted to say, did I hear her use the word trash? I nearly cringed my eyes out. That's not a phrase I've come across before, but
obviously
I like it.
I'm not in the chamber, so I can't hear which side is laughing and which side is booing and whatnot. Yes. But look, I think, like I say, I think the economy a good topic for her to go on. Not quite sure she really delivered any knockout blows, but I think she did push him a little bit more than she has done previously. You were saying in the break that you think that the idea that the Conservatives left to that £22 billion black hole and the legacy that was left is still a strong enough argument to go on. What sort of makes you think that?
Let me read you what John says. Badenoch was sort of more coherent today. I almost felt sorry for her. Starmer, for a while, is able to keep bashing her over the head with the Conservatives' record. That, in a nutshell, is why.
Yeah.
But he goes on to say, however, the elephant in the room should be the Brexit she supported, which blew up farmers and almost everyone she now professes to clutch her pearls for. I find that fascinating because he's absolutely right in that they, as we touched on before we crossed to the chamber, that some Tories actually said that this will ruin farming.
Yeah.
And they are not yet Tories who have abandoned the claim that Brexit would be good for Britain. And Starmer can't go there for reasons that are becoming increasingly opaque as you look at the polling. But if you cared about British farmers, you would not, and you were bright enough to understand what was going on.
EU subsidies to farmers were incredibly generous.
You would not have voted for Brexit. And further, if you were truly paying attention, you'd have heard people like Patrick Minford, who was the only economist you could book at one point, who would tell you that Brexit was going to be good for the United Kingdom, the only properly qualified academic economist. He literally said that agriculture and manufacturing would be completely destroyed by Brexit. But Starmer can't go there. It won't go there.
Yeah,
can't or won't?
Probably a bit of both.
Oh, come off it. You're not a politician.
Probably won't.
Yeah,
probably doesn't want to wade into that. And look, I do think that the whole farmers' inheritance tax row was a misstep for the government. They've reframed it as a row they want to fight over inheritance tax. I think they generally think that's working. They are staring them down. Despite repeated tractors going up and down Whitehall every other week, there's no signs of any imminent softening of this. But yes, you're completely right in the fact that we took back control of our farming regime, and what have they replaced it with? Something that farmers like even less. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly why Keir Starmer feels that it's not something that he can really row in behind on. But
because it speaks to authenticity. It speaks to Badenoch's claims to care for these people. In fact, as John put it, almost everyone she now professes to clutch her pearls for was hit really hard, much harder by Brexit than by...
pensioners, businesses, councils. Yeah, you can have that argument with all three of them. She talks about winter fuel, she talks about the hiking, jobs tax, she talks about council tax going up. But yeah, this is all stuff that the Conservatives have left a pretty tricky legacy for her to navigate. And maybe that's just the whole reason why she's having such a torrid time at Prime Minister's questions. Maybe there is no Conservative leader that's able to go up against Keir Starmer at this point in an electoral cycle with the economy in the sort of state that it is and actually land any blows. Who would be doing a better job? And, is there anybody that can?
Point. Honest Bob Jenrick would stand up and
he would
try to
tell,
be even viler about foreigners and refugees than the people in the Reform Party managed to be, and then promise to start painting over more murals.
He probably would do.
But I don't think he'd get many cheers from his own benches for that kind of nativist, atavistic poison.
I think there is a bit of a backlash within the Conservatives at this sort of reform agenda, and I'm hearing more Conservatives say to me recently, we don't want to go to the reform side. We think we should be fighting harder to get back those Liberal Democrat voters.
They've got the wrong leader, and they've got the wrong leader in waiting.
Well, exactly. So, it doesn't feel like that's going to be anything that they are doing anytime soon. But we should talk about Ed Davey, because those two questions that he put forward were Starmer's answers were really revealing. Talking about the US-Ukraine support, tariffs, and disabilities benefits. And you heard that... You had that one of those backbenches as well, standing up to ask him about disabilities benefits. This is going to be a huge fight for the Prime Minister to have. And, you heard him talk about, I know disabilities. My mother, his family have been affected by this. And so he says he does understand concerns about cuts to disabilities benefits, which he told the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, earlier this week, he is going to have to press ahead and do because, and he blames the size of the welfare bill that was left by the last Conservative government. He says it's broken, indefensible, and we must and will reform it. So this is going to be a huge fight for him. And left-wing MPs, left, right and centre are going, I cannot vote for something which actually will cut disability benefits for people who cannot work. Yes. And the true test of this will be, the devil will be in the detail, whether that actually does come or not, whether he sticks to that vow and what exactly these reforms look like. And we don't know yet.
We are back, oddly, given that I was talking about Brexit and Keir Starmer, we're back to the difference between can't and won't. And as you said yourself, it might be a bit of both. The difficulty of properly distinguishing between can't and won't. And it's fair to say there are no policy proposals in place yet, or even kites flying above Westminster at this point that provide much optimism that this lot will be able to do what the previous lot and the lot before that and the lot before that and the lot before that couldn't do, and distinguish meaningfully between can't and won't. And I didn't hear the words long COVID, which I think are going to have to start popping up in these conversations sooner rather than later, just for simple statistical reasons. I'm going to put you in an uncomfortable situation now. Vaguely.
You always like to try.
You've no idea. If we were, there's one obvious answer to this question, but if we were to look for the maypole around which the more moderate members you just talked about may dance, the Conservatives who want to reset a course away from the nativist demagoguery of Farage and Rupert Lowe and Richard Tye. So just run through it again, will you? Murdoch is the one that got jailed for beating up a woman.
We're not doing this again.
I think it's important because people don't know what's going on.
We're talking about the Conservative Party.
We are, but why they don't want to be more like Reform, because at the moment Reform has 4 MPs, one of whom got locked up for beating up his ex-girlfriend, one of whom has a girlfriend who's an economic migrant, one of whom is a massive Vladimir Putin fan, and who's the other? Oh, and one of whom is 30p Lee. Crikey, we'd be here all day if we start listing all the reasons why you wouldn't want to be like him. But if the Tories were to find a maypole around which the people wanting to tack in the other direction might dance, who might they look at?
I'm not going to answer who's been telling me and who's been giving me those sort of suggestions, but it doesn't come from the front bench of the Conservative Party, that's fair to say. I think Kemi Badenoch has very much shaped that in her own image.
But who do you think?
Who do I think?
Who do you think might be a rallying point for these people?
I think it's some of those MPs who perhaps we were expecting to lose their seats and haven't. And MPs from sort of the Conservatives over the years, and some of them are slightly newer MPs, some of them are slightly older hats, that have seen the Conservative Party change and realise...
There's 2 questions you've signally failed to answer.
I'd make a great politician.
A little bit of both. So, Cleverly?
Definitely James Cleverly. Again, someone not in there. Tom Toonat, again, deliberately not in the shadow cabinet. Even people, and even you might you'll probably hate me for saying this, even people like Jeremy Hunt are people that...
I wouldn't know. He's, compared to the rest of them, Jeremy Hunt is a statesman.
And realises the importance of not tacking to the right, and realises the Liberal Democrat threat that he faces in places. He just about held on to his seat, and others didn't. So, he should. People should take a leaf from his book rather than go to the reform.
And another question that you will almost certainly not want to answer.
Go on, try me.
When do you think they'll start coming for Badenoch?
Well, I was speaking to an MP the other day who doesn't think there's a lot of time left for Kemi Badenoch to start making inroads. There's a lot of talk, including about who's going to try and muscle up to replace her. People like Robert Jenrick are being openly talked about, and whether they are openly planning a leadership bid at this point. But look, she has until a year in the job before they can even challenge her, because the party changed the membership rules. Whether they would do so again, I don't feel like there's any appetite to change the rules now to do anything yet. But I reckon once that year point comes in, I hear that next week she's going to be giving a big speech talking about some of the policies that she wants to be bringing forward.
Excellent.
So that'll be really
Clear
delightful.
Your diaries. What day? Do we know?
We'll be with you. Potentially Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thank goodness for that. At least they don't mess with mystery, because I'd be tempted.
I'll bring it to you, all of the details, once I know it.
Thank you.
But I think she has got about a year until people start to ask the genuine questions. Where have you moved the party? What policies are you doing? How much rebuilding have you done? Are you bringing in money for the party? And is that fight back really happening? Because there are a lot of people in the party that believe that under Kemi Badenoch, a lot of people aren't really pulling their weight.
It was supposedly Napoleon who said that I need lucky generals, and she doesn't look like a lucky general at the moment.
I just don't think any general can be lucky in the Conservative Party right now.
And just as you say that, I glance to my right, and nestling in the corner of the screen as another MP makes a speech, we're reminded of the existence of Marc Francois. Cometh the hour.
Cometh the man.
Cometh the news.